Book of Heaven, Volume 22, Part 1. JMJ. Fiat. June 1st, 1927. How Jesus knows how to make all miracles, except for that of separating from his own will. Sorrow because of the death of Father de Francia. The good of one who puts the truths he has known into practice. Jesus allows her to see that blessed soul and speaks to her about him. The privations of my sweet Jesus are becoming longer. I feel I cannot go on any more. Oh, if it were conceded to me to take flight toward my celestial fatherland, in which there are no more separations from Jesus. How happy I would be to get out of the hard and dark prison of my body. Jesus, Jesus, how can you not want to have pity on me, on this poor prisoner? How can it be? You left me without even coming to visit me often, in the dark prison I find myself in. Oh, Jesus, without you, how much more painful, more gloomy, more terrible my imprisonment becomes, in which you put me, telling me that I should remain in it for love of you and to do your will, but that you would not leave me alone. You would keep me company. And now everything is over. I do not have your smile that cheers me. I do not have your word that breaks my long silence, nor your company that interrupts my loneliness. I am alone, imprisoned and bound by you in this prison. And then, as the fulfillment, you have left me. Jesus, Jesus, I did not expect this from you. But while I was pouring out my intense sorrow, he came out from within my interior, and embracing me in order to sustain me, for I had no more strength, he told me, "My daughter, courage, I do not leave you. On the contrary, you must know that your Jesus knows how to make and can make all miracles, except for the miracle of separating from my own will. If my divine will is in you, how can I leave you? And if I did so, I would be Jesus without life. Rather, it is the endlessness of my fiat that hides me, and while you feel its life, you do not see your Jesus, who is inside of it." Then I was feeling very afflicted, not only because of the privations of my sweet Jesus, but also because I had received the unexpected news of the death of Reverend Father de Francia. He was the only one left to me, to whom I could open my poor soul. How well he could understand me. It was to a saint that I would entrust myself, who had very much comprehended all the value of what Jesus had told me about the divine will. He had so much interest in it, that with insistence he had taken all the writings with himself in order to publish them. So I was thinking to myself, after Jesus allowed that he would take the writings with himself, to my great sacrifice, because I did not want it, and only because he was a saint I had to surrender. And now Jesus has taken him to heaven. I felt I myself being tortured because of the pain. But Fiat, 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 everything ends down here. I poured out in tears, commending to Jesus that blessed soul who had so much suffered and worked for him. And while I was doing this, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior and told me, "My daughter, courage! You must know that everything which that soul, so dear to me, has done, all the knowledges he has known about my will, have caused him to enclose as much light within his soul. So each additional knowledge is a greater light that he possesses, and each knowledge places a distinct light in the soul, one more beautiful than the other, together with the seed of the distinct happiness that each light contains. In fact, in anything good that the soul can know, with her will of putting it into practice within herself, she remains in possession of the good she knows. But if she does not have the will to put the knowledges she acquires into practice, it happens as when someone touches a flower, or washes himself once with very fresh water. In that act, he will feel the fragrance of the flower, the refreshment of the fresh water. But since he does not possess the flower or the font of fresh water, little by little the fragrance will vanish, as well as the good of the freshness of that water, and he will find himself empty of that fragrance and without the freshness he had enjoyed. Such are the knowledges when one has the good of knowing them, but does not put them into practice. Now that soul had all the will to practice them, so much so that in seeing the great good he felt, he wanted to make them known to others by publishing them. So as long as he remained on earth, his body, more than walled up that light. But as soon as his soul went out of the prison of his body, he found himself invested with the light he possessed. And as the many seeds of happiness he possessed developed, which are the effects of the knowledges about my divine will, he began to feel the beginning of the life of true beatitudes. And diving into the eternal light of his Creator, he found himself in the celestial fatherland, in which he will continue his mission about my will, assisting everything himself from heaven. If you knew the great difference in glory, in beauty, in happiness that exists between one who upon dying brings light from the earth together with the seeds of many happinesses, and one who only receives it from his Creator, there is such distance as to surpass the distance between heaven and earth. Oh, if mortals knew the great good they acquire by knowing a true good, a truth, and by making it their own blood, in order to absorb it in their own lives, they would compete among themselves. They would forget about everything in order to know one truth, and would lay down their lives to put it into practice. While Jesus was saying this, I saw the blessed soul of Father before me, near my bed, invested with light, suspended from the earth, fixing on me, but without telling me one word. I too felt mute before him, and Jesus added, "Look at him, how transformed he is. My will is light, and has transformed that soul into light. It is beautiful, and has given him all the tints of perfect beauty. It is holy, and he has been sanctified. My will possesses all sciences, and his soul has been invested by divine science. There is nothing that my will has not given to him. Oh, if all understood what divine will means, they would put everything aside. They would care about doing nothing else, and their whole commitment would be to do my will alone." After this, I was thinking to myself, but why did blessed Jesus not concur in making a miracle for Father de Francia? And Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, in redemption, the Queen of Heaven did not make any miracle, because her conditions did not permit that she would give life to the dead or health to the sick. In fact, since her will was that of God himself, whatever her God wanted and did, she wanted and did as well. Nor did she possess another will to ask God for miracles and healings, because she never gave life to her human will. And in order to ask for miracles from this divine will, she should have used her own, which she did not want to do, because it would have meant descending into the human order. But the sovereign queen never wanted to take one step outside of the divine order, and one who is in it must want and do what his Creator does. More so, since with the life and light of this divine will, she could see that whatever her Creator wanted and did was the best, the most perfect, the holiest, also for creatures. So how could she descend from the height of the divine order? This is why she only made the great miracle that enclosed all miracles, redemption, wanted by the same will by which she was animated, that brought universal good, and to whoever wants it. While in life, she made no visible miracle, either of healings or of raising the dead. The great celestial mother made and does make miracles at each moment, at every hour, and every day. Because as souls dispose themselves and repent, giving herself the disposition for repentance, she bilocates her Jesus, the fruit of her womb, and gives him as whole to each one, as confirmation of her great miracle, that God wanted this celestial creature to make. The miracles that God Himself wants to be made, without mixing of human will, are perennial miracles, because they start from the divine font that is never exhausted, and it is enough to want them in order to receive them. Now your conditions hold hands with those of the incomparable Queen of Heaven. Having to form the kingdom of the supreme Fiat, you must want nothing but what my divine will wants and does. And your will must have no life, even if it seems to you that you might be doing some good to creatures. And just as my mamma did not want to make any other miracle but the one of giving her Jesus to creatures, the same for you. The miracle that the divine will wants you to make is that of giving my will to creatures, and of making it known in order to let it reign. With this miracle, you will do more than anything. You will place the salvation, the sanctity, the nobility of creatures in safety, and will also banish their corporal maladies, caused by the fact that my divine will does not reign. Not only this, but you will place a divine will in safety in the midst of creatures, and will give back to it all the glory and the honor that human ingratitude has taken away from it. This is why I did not allow that you would make the miracle of healing him, but you made for him the great miracle of letting him know my will, and he left the earth with the possession of it. And now he enjoys in the sea of the light of the divine will, and this is more than anything. June 8th, 1927. For one who does the divine will, all times and places are her own. How she takes eternity in her power. How God loses nothing, because He is perfect in loving. I was following the divine will in its acts, in everything it had done, in the order of the whole creation, from the beginning of the world up to the present. But while I was doing this, I thought to myself, what is past is not in my power. Therefore it seems a waste of time to me to go on tracing what has passed. At that moment, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior, telling me, my daughter, for one who does my will and lives in it, all times and all places are hers. My supreme will loses nothing of what it does, and with its own unique power, it does the act, and it preserves it within itself, intact and beautiful, just as it did it. So one who lives in my supreme will finds in it the order of all its acts, as if it were doing them at that very instant. And the soul, uniting herself with it, does what my volition is doing. This is all the delight, the satisfaction, the glory of my will, that while its acts are eternal, the littleness of the creature who lives in it takes eternity in her power, and finding the acts of her Creator as though in act, she repeats with him, she loves, she glorifies the endlessness of the acts of He who created her. And so a contest of works, a contest of love and of glory, is formed between them. Therefore the times of creation are at her disposal, as well as the place of the terrestrial Eden. She has the times of my incarnation, of my passion, and Bethlehem, Nazareth, and Calvary are not far from her. Past, distance, do not exist for her, but everything is present and near. Even more, you must know that my will gives the unity of everything to the soul. And just as my will, while being one, does everything, in the same way the soul who possesses the divine unity encloses within herself the thoughts of all, the words, works, steps, and heartbeats of all, as if they were one alone, in such a way that my will finds in her all generations and the single acts of each one, just as it finds them within itself. Oh, how the steps of this chosen creature can be recognized! How sweet is her treading! She goes before her God, but she never goes alone. She carries the treading of the steps of all within her steps. Her voice contains the notes of all human voices. And oh, what a beautiful harmony she forms in our will. Her heartbeat unleashes little flames for as many creatures as have come out to the existence of light. Oh, how she delights us! We amuse ourselves together. She is our dear jewel, the reflection of our works, the image of our life. This is why I want my will to reign in the creature, to fill her with all of its acts. In fact, when it does not reign, the void of its acts is formed in her. And oh, how terrible is the void of a divine will in the creature! It is like dry land, full of rocks, without sun and without water. That is terrifying to look at. And how many there are of these voids in the creature. And when I find one who lives in my will, I make feast, for I can fill her with all the acts of my will. Then I was thinking about what is written above, and my Jesus added, "My daughter, our love is perfect in all our works, and since it is perfect, we lose nothing of what we do, and therefore our works serve as triumph, glory, and everlasting crown of our divine being. And whatever is done in the perfection of our perfect love is not subject either to being lost or to losing its wholeness and beauty. How different is the work of the creature, because she lacks the perfect love for her works. She operates and puts her works out. She has neither the virtue nor the space in order to preserve them within herself, and this is why she loses many of her works. And since they lack the life and the love of the one who has formed them, the human works do not have the virtue of remaining beautiful, intact, and ever new, just as they were made. Therefore, with the soul who lives in our divine will, we delight in showing her all our acts, that appear as though being all present and in the act of being done. And we say to the soul, repeat our act, so that what we do, you may do as well, so as to place the act of the Creator in common with the creature. It happens as to someone who possesses many beautiful things, but keeps them under lock and key in separate rooms. No one knows that he has so many things of varied beauty. Now, a second person wins the favor of the first one. He proves to be faithful to him, nor is he capable of moving one comma of his will. He captures the heart of the first one, who feels his heart crack, because his love toward that person leads him with an irresistible force to show him the goods he possesses, and the variety and rarity of so many precious things. Therefore he opens the secret rooms and says to him, I feel divided in love if I do not make you aware of my secrets, if I do not let you see what I possess, so that we may enjoy and possess together. Those things seem all new to the second one, because he had never seen things of that kind. But for the first, those were ancient things. The same happens for one who comes to live in our will. The doors are opened. Our secrets are revealed. She is made aware of all our most beautiful works. To keep secrets with her, to hide our acts, would be a weight upon our heart. It would be as though keeping her like a stranger. Oh, how this would afflict us! In fact, true and perfect love admits neither secrets nor separation of works and of goods. On the contrary, what is mine is yours. What I know, you know as well. Even more, you must know that my will forms the echo of its works, of its love, of its word, in the soul in whom it reigns, in such a way that on hearing its echo, the soul repeats the work, the love, and the word of the divine Fiat. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 22, Part 1. Fiat.